Hello everyone and welcome to the Learning Curve. This video is a continuation of my special series on preparation of middle school math students for their upcoming SBAC exam in math. This is my second installment in this series. The first question we have here is solve for x in 5x minus 12 equals 3x. So I'm going to use a very simple approach to solve for x here. There are many ways to do this. One of the easiest ways is to firstly group like terms. That means that I'm going to put all the terms with an x, that is the unknown, on one side of the equation. That is preferably on the side where x is larger. And I'm going to put the numbers without x's on the other side of the equation. Those numbers without x's we call constants. So in this equation, 5x and 3x are like terms. So I'm going to write back 5x here. And by inverse operation, because this 3x is a positive 3x on the right side of the equation, we know that because there's no clear sign, positive or negative, in front of it, so by default it is a positive 3x. So we need to get this positive 3x, we need to get 3x to be reflected on the left side of the equation. So we're going to carry out what is called inverse operations here. So the inverse of a positive is negative, and the inverse of negative is positive. So the inverse of this positive 3x on the right side of the equation would be negative 3x on the left side of the equation. So I now have brought the x's together on the side where x is larger, which is the left side of the equation. And I'm going to write here equal, and my next step is to get rid of this negative 12 from the left side of the equation. So I'm going to carry out inverse operations for that negative 12 as well. So the inverse of negative 12 would be positive 12 on the other side of the equation. So I end up with a positive 12 here, which is the inverse of negative 12 on the other side, shown on the other side of the equation. So we end up with the grouping of like terms here in a very simple way. 5x minus 3x equal positive 12. Now when I take 5x minus 3x, here I get 2x. 5x's minus 3x's gives us 2x's, and this is equal to 12. What we want to do next is to get x on its own. What this is saying is 2 multiplied by a number x is going to be equal to 12. So we need to know what that number is. Just by doing mental math, we realize this number is going to be 6, because 2 multiplied by 6 will give us 12. So x is going to be 6. But what I can do to get x on its own here is to do the inverse of what is being done to x. X is being multiplied by 2 because that's what 2x means. It means 2 multiplied by x. So we're going to do the inverse of multiplication by 2, which is actually to divide by 2. And that will allow us to get rid of the 2 that is being multiplied by x. What we do to one side of an equation, we have to do to the other side as well. So on the right side, I'm also going to divide by 2 on the right side of the equal sign. So that on the left side of the equal sign here, where I have 2x divided by 2, 2 divides into itself once, and 2 divides into 2 once here. So I'm left with 1x divided by x, which is just x. As 1 multiplied by any quantity gives you that same quantity, and a quantity divided by 1 leaves you with that quantity as well. So we end up with x alone on this side of the equation. On the left side of the equation, I'm left with x alone. So I'm going to write x there. And on the right side of the equation, that is the right side of the equal sign, I have 12 divided by 2, which is 6. So the answer is 6. So that was what A should have been, x equals 6. Okay, now let's move on to question 7. Here we're going to solve for y in 2, open bracket, y plus 3 minus 5 equal 11. So I'm going to write this out here as 2 into y plus 3, take away 5, equal to 11. So what we're going to do here is that we're going to multiply 2 by both terms inside the bracket. The 2 in front of the bracket means that we're going to multiply both terms inside of the bracket by 2. That is, I'm going to multiply 2 by y and also 2 by 3. So essentially what we're doing here is that we are expanding the bracket to get rid of it. So now 2 multiplied by y is going to give us 2y. 2 multiplied by 3 is going to give us 6. And of course, we still have the minus 5 here that we started with, and this is equal to 11. And let us simplify. So to simplify here, we're going to get 2y plus 6 minus 5 is going to give us 1, which is equal to 11. So what we now need to do is to get rid of this positive 1 from the left side of the equation. So we're going to do inverse operation. That is, we're going to minus 1 from both sides of the equation, which will reflect as 2y equal 11 minus 1, because the inverse of adding 1 is subtracting 1. So the subtraction of 1 would be shown here on the left side of the equation. So we end up with 2y equal to 11 minus 1, which is 10. So 2 multiplied by a number y will give us 10, which is obviously 5. And to get that 5, we're going to do the inverse of what is being done to y. The inverse of multiplication is division, and vice versa. So the inverse of multiplication by 2 would be to divide by 2. And what you do to one side of an equation, you also do to the other side. So we end up with 2y divided by 2. So the 2y's, the 2's cancel each other because 2 divides into itself once. So we're therefore left with y equal 10 divided by 2, which is 5. So the answer here is A. And in the final question, in this particular installment of this SBAC series, we're asked to enter the value of the square root of 1 over 64 in this box here. So I'm going to write here square root of 1 over 64. Now the square root of 1 over 64 can be expressed based on the laws of algebraic operations. It can be expressed as the square root of the numerator, top part of the fraction, divided by the square root of the denominator. Now the square root of 1 is 1, always. Square root of 1 is 1, because 1 multiplied by itself will give us 1. Remember that the square root of a number is really asking us what number can be multiplied by itself to give you that number under the square root. And the square root of 64 is 8, because 8 multiplied by itself will give us 64. So the answer here that I'm going to put in this box is 1/8. So thank you very much for your participation and engagement in this short session as I continue my series on SBAC review questions for 8th grade students. I hope you found this to be very instructive. Remember to continue to tune in for the remaining installments as I continue to assist with your preparation for upcoming SBAC examinations. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.